I don't think we ever got to tell everybody that a week and a half ago, our full episode, what was it about? What
Oh,
was it about?
geez.
It was mine, and it was about Lars
Yes.
missing in Germany. Or,
Fascinating.
yeah, yes,
And
the
that one.
tank.
Yes.
Lars Mattank.
I knew it ended up
It's
in
very close, very good. That is almost exactly how it's pronounced.
Yeah.
I am definitely the expert on
Yes.
all pronunciations.
Lars. Everything. Yeah.
If you listen to that episode, you may have heard us a few times reference the amount of noise going on.
And we were like, what is happening?
It was just helicopters.
Yeah.
It was so loud. And finally, after we got through the episode, Kara leaves. And then we learned that the president
was
of the United States
yeah.
had
And his
flown
crew.
over. Yeah.
Yeah. We're landing at the Lexington airport.
Yeah.
And then they were traveling to Eastern Kentucky to
It was like 5 helicopters.
Speak with the flood victims. So, our bad.
Yeah. It was actual helicopters, and they were loud.
Props to Air Force One.
I tell you, we went with my job. We went to Eastern Kentucky to see the floods, or not to see the floods, but to feed people who had been affected by the floods. And man, it was really awful.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. You know, I went to Western Kentucky when the tornadoes happened.
Right.
Isn't it crazy that we've had like Western Kentucky got hit with the tornadoes?
Right.
That was like a once in a lifetime awful tornado.
Yeah. And it was in December.
And these floods, once in a lifetime awful floods. Anyway, so when we went to Western Kentucky, that town was leveled.
Yeah.
So the people who lived there were not there anymore. They had gone to stay.
It was just the people working
in different
to
places.
Clean up.
Yeah, which was still good. Like we helped those people. They needed food. They were working. I met so many great people who were working just around the clock.
Yeah.
To rebuild that.
Right. And volunteer firefighters from other communities.
A lot of electricians. Yeah. This time though, the people we were serving food to
were the people
who
the victims
lost people they loved, lost homes they had worked so hard for. And Eastern Kentucky is not a wealthy area. These people
Hazard Hindman
work very hard. Hindman is where we were.
I actually grew up with a bunch of guys from Hindman. We played volleyball with them all the time. I went to like state competitions with them all the time, and I still keep up with them on Facebook. And one of them is still an EMT there. And him and his wife and I think 3 girls, their house is like destroyed. And then another one, his son was staying with, we call her Gran, in her house there. And they luckily were able to get to shelter before that happened. And they finally got a hold of their son, was like, okay, but is everything okay? Like, is Gran okay? Because she's older.
Yeah.
And so it's scary. And so
it happened so fast.
Yeah.
And so many people didn't know what was happening.
Right.
And
a lot of them live in like mobile homes and stuff.
Oh yeah,
too.
I saw several mobile homes that had very obviously been just like they were just pushed to the side of the road. They had been washed down from who knows where.
Schools, yeah.
And everyone told me that like the destruction that I was seeing just on the drive into town and then where we were setting up was nothing compared to what was like up in the mountains.
Yeah.
But there was a friend of mine who told me about his sister-in-law and her husband. By the time they left the house, the water was already waist high.
Oh my gosh.
And they basically just started climbing up the mountain to try to get high enough, and they were holding on to the guardrail just to get up. And I just can't imagine how terrifying it would have been. And then think if you have kids on top of that.
Exactly.
Or your pets. Like
your pets.
I mean, if there was a flood, I'm carrying decks everywhere.
Exactly. Like there was an article Sophie showed me that some guy stuck around to like let other people's horses out.
Yeah.
And a lot of them survived.
Yeah.
Because horses, they're actually good swimmers, but geez.
It's just terrible. And we saw a lot of homes that were just like brick homes. So the homes were still standing, but all the windows were gone.
Right.
There was a huge pile of debris where they got in there and cleaned out. You could just tell the water had just rushed through it. Like
ripped
water
everything apart.
Terrifying.
And then you got to deal with like mold and
it's just awful.
After that. And these people don't have the money to recuperate.
No. So hopefully
FEMA and whatnot.
I know, but I can't remember what the number is, but the number I'd heard that FEMA was able to give everybody is not a lot.
It's not, no, it never is.
Anyway, so that's what the president was doing. He was flying over my house.
Yeah.
And did not even stop to say hi or anything.
I know, didn't wave at us.
And then,
you don't know.
Well, he may have waved. He probably
They could have, what, you know what? They probably were flying circles
maybe
around
they
the
were
house with a banner saying, "Witches, Magic, Murder, Mystery, we love you." We didn't even see it. We were so ungrateful.
Shit. Yeah.
We'll have to write
so that's on us, really.
Yeah.
Gosh. Okay. We'll stop complaining. Okay. This story is right up there with the magic bag story.
Oh.
The amazing
muscular dexterity of
Yes.
her vaginal walls.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I have told this one to several people.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
I cannot wait to tell you either. So
I can't wait.
Are you ready?
I think so, yeah.
Hey, this is the Witches, Magic, Murder, and Mystery podcast.
Oh yeah, here we are. I'm Kara.
I'm Megan. We're only like 6 minutes in.
That's fine.
Elmer McCurdy.
What a name.
Isn't it?
Elmer.
He was born in Washington, Maine.
Okay.
January 1st, 1880.
Okay.
So he was a New Year's Day baby.
Oh, man.
Born right there on the holiday, which
right
is just...
smack dab in it.
Yeah. My brother was born on New Year's Eve.
Wow.
Which, like, fine being on that holiday, but you're like 6 days past Christmas, which just sucks. Okay, so his family history, Elmer's, is a little sad. His mother, Sadie, I love the name Sadie.
I know.
She wasn't married when she had him, which, as we all know, is the worst thing that could ever happen to a woman. Ever.
Think about it.
And in order to save her the embarrassment of raising an illegitimate child, Elmer was adopted by Sadie's brother, George, and his wife, Helen. So, Uncle George and Aunt Helen raised Elmer, but they didn't tell him that they weren't his real parents.
He probably looks like them.
Probably, because they're all related.
Mm-hmm.
Then when he was 10, George died of tuberculosis. So then Sadie and Helen
raised him
together.
Okay.
And they moved with George to Bangor, Maine.
Okay.
Have you ever seen the Bangor, Maine Police Department Facebook page?
No, is it amazing?
It's perfect.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody just go look it up. Whoever runs it, they just are so entertaining. I love them so much.
Maybe we should just
They're
share
just
it
really
on the Facebook
funny
page.
Yeah, I'll probably just put it in the Facebook group.
They have 330,000 followers.
Yeah, because they're hilarious. Okay. Eventually, not sure how old he was when this happened, Sadie told Elmer, "Hey, I'm your real mom."
Okay.
And I don't actually know who
your dad is. Okay.
Elmer did not take the news well.
Oh, he didn't.
He began acting out, and they described him as unruly and rebellious.
All of a sudden.
He's a little boy.
Right.
So when he was a teenager, he started drinking pretty heavily, and that habit stuck with him for the rest of his life.
Ugh.
So he moved in with his grandfather and became an apprentice plumber. And things were going pretty well for him until 1898 when he lost his job. Oh. Apparently there was some sort of depression. It's not like the Great Depression, but there was definitely an economic downturn across the country. And so
people are like, I'm doing my own plumbing.
So he was 18 then.
Okay.
2 years later, his mother died. And I assume by his mother, they mean Sadie at that point.
Okay.
And then a month after that, his grandfather died.
Jeez.
There's no mention of what happened to his Aunt Helen.
Okay.
But at this point, Elmer just sort of...
He's an adult. He
wanders off. Yeah. So he leaves Maine and he travels around pretty much sticking to the eastern United States.
Okay.
He works as a miner and a plumber. He's still drinking. And he's drinking so much that it's growing harder and harder to keep a job. It's really interfering with that.
Oh.
In 1907, Elmer joined the Army, where he was a machine gun operator.
Ooh.
And while he was in the Army, he was trained to use nitroglycerin for demolition purposes before being honorably discharged in 1910. So when I was reading all this, I had to stop right there and look up nitroglycerin because the only thing I knew about it is that my mom and my papa have to take nitroglycerin pills for their hearts.
Right.
So I was like, nitroglycerin for demolition purposes?
Yeah,
what is this? Like, what are they putting in our bodies? As it turns out, nitroglycerin has been used as an active ingredient in the creation of explosives, namely dynamite, ever since it was invented in 1847.
Don't ever light a match around their pills.
The more you know. Okay. So Elmer gets out of the Army, and about 2 weeks later, he meets up with one of his Army buddies in Kansas. And that's where he gets arrested.
Oh.
Along with his friend for possession of burglary paraphernalia, which I was like,
what you burglarizing with?
But I'm surprised that they could arrest him for having... So he had like chisels, hacksaw, gunpowder, money sacks, and funnels. I guess it's the money sacks. Maybe?
Oh, maybe. Because that was kind of his job.
I mean, I'm like, the rest of it, I would just kind of be like, I don't know, you got a bunch of stuff, but I can't prove any of it.
Right, exactly.
So they go to court, and Elmer and his friend are like, no, we weren't going to rob anybody.
Right.
You guys, we have all this stuff because we're inventing a foot-operated machine gun.
Oh, but...
Yeah. A jury found them not guilty.
Oh.
The jury was like, sure they are.
We love this. We want to be a part of that. TM us into it.
Elmer is released from jail. So since they didn't find him guilty, they've been
Right.
holding him until then.
Right.
And then in March 1911, he moves to Oklahoma,
Hmm.
which is where his fairly terrible career as a robber begins.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Okay.
On March 24th, Elmer and 3 other men robbed the Iron Mountain, Missouri Pacific train number 104 because Elmer had heard that one of the cars held a safe containing $4,000. It's 1911, so
Sure. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money now. I mean, I wouldn't turn my nose up at $4,000.
Yeah, exactly.
But they stopped the train, found the safe, and then Elmer's like, I was trained to use nitroglycerin. So he makes this, like, they call it like a nitroglycerin charge, which I assume is just a little bomb
dynamite, yeah,
on the safe to open it. But see, you know how we're not good at math?
Yeah.
I don't know how great he was at that sort of thing either, because he put too much.
Oh, and it obliterated it.
Yeah. So not only did the safe blow up, but
Nice.
it destroyed most of the money in it too.
Oh.
And what they did was that a lot of the silver had melted onto like what was left of the safe. So they had to scrape off. And they made off with about $450.
Oh.
Between the 4 men.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Months later, on September 21st, 1911, Elmer found himself back in Kansas, where he and a couple other guys go to rob the Citizens Bank of Chautauqua.
Good. So good.
He took a hammer and he spent 2 hours breaking through the wall of the bank.
Son, what you doing over there?
I would assume
I'm fixing this brick.
On the day when the bank was closed.
Yeah.
And maybe at night, because you're there for 2 hours with a hammer.
Hammering away.
Yeah. Took him 2 hours to break through the wall of the bank. And then he pulls out another nitroglycerin charge. He's learned a lot.
He knows all about it.
He puts it around the door of the bank's outer vault. This time, it was a little more successful.
Okay.
It blew the door off the outer vault.
Oh.
And threw that door through the interior of the bank. But the safe inside the vault was not harmed at all. It's perfectly fine.
Okay.
So at this point, I feel a little sorry for Elmer.
Yeah.
I can just imagine him being like,
back up, guys. I got to make another one.
So he does have another nitroglycerin charge. So he takes it and he puts it on the safe door. But this one won't ignite.
Oh, my God.
Elmer, just stop. So
you're not good at this anymore.
Elmer and his little, I'm not sure he ever was. Elmer and his little robber friends had a lookout. And after the second charge didn't ignite, the lookout was like, guys, I'm out of here. Deuces.
Yeah.
So then Elmer and his buddies just end up taking some of the coins that were in a tray outside the safe. So it was about $150.
It's like something that the staff was just like, we'll deal with this tomorrow.
Yeah. $150 and ran.
That's amazing.
So Elmer heads back to Oklahoma.
Okay.
And he commits one last robbery.
Oh, Elmer.
On October 4th, 1911, he and 2 accomplices heard that a Katy train containing $400,000
oh my geez
in cash that was intended as a royalty payment to the Osage Nation was coming through.
Okay.
So I stopped because I was like, I don't know what any of these things are.
Right.
So what's a Katy train, you ask? The Missouri, Kansas, Texas Railway, established in 1865, was commonly referred to as the KT for Kansas, Texas. Okay. So the trains were nicknamed the Katy.
Okay.
Now, this is...
I just know about 310 to Yuma. That's...
Right. Yeah. Now, the next one is, do you know this? Why were royalties being paid to the Osage Nation?
Because they felt sorry for him.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
That is so not it. It gets real bad. So I couldn't let that question go. Right? So I stopped and researched it. And this is going to be actually an extra episode. I did not expect it to turn into like another thing I could do an episode on, but it's going to be an extra episode on the Patreon and it should be up in the next day or two. Here's the short version. There was oil on the Osage reservation. Right. And the Osage were one of the few Native American tribes to actually own their land.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So the government couldn't just take it from them.
Yeah.
So companies paid the Osage royalties for the oil produced on the reservation.
Oh.
And this led to a lot of money for the Osage tribe. At first, I'm reading all this and I'm like, what? Like, we did the right thing then. Like, we paid them for the oil that was theirs. Like, and they're Native
resources
Americans
that we're getting from them. Yeah.
So I'm feeling kind of good about it until I kept reading. You know, I had this moment where like the government actually helped them. Yeah. But no. Turns out there's a lot to this story, including murder. Ooh. So Went ahead, researched it, wrote another episode about it. It's a really fascinating and terrible story. I also think it's just a really important story.
Right.
There's so many things about it that were brand new information to me.
Y'all need to know.
So it'll be up on the Patreon. The goal will be tomorrow. Okay, back to Elmer. So he's like, we're going to rob this Katy train and get $400,000. Finally.
We're going to do it.
My last 2 robberies produced $600 total, which I had to split with other people. And that's a math problem I'm not going to do.
Yeah, I got nothing.
But this is $400,000. And we don't have to be math wizards to know that that's going to be
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot more. So Elmer and his accomplices are ready.
Oh, God.
They're so ready.
Okay.
And they're so excited. This is going to change their life. They go out there. They stop the train. It's the wrong train.
Stop it.
They didn't stop the Katy train carrying $400,000, Kara.
No.
Instead, they stopped passenger train number 29. But don't worry. They were still able to steal some stuff.
Did they?
They got $46 from the mail clerk.
Stop.
2 demijohns of whiskey. I'll look that up. I think it's like 2 15-gallon containers.
Little growlers.
A revolver, a coat, and the train conductor's watch.
Stop it.
I feel like they were just wandering through being like,
I'll take that.
Yeah. Well, just give me that watch too. You know, like,
I can't. I'm so mad about this. What do you got? That scarf? I'll take it.
All right. Just take whatever you can.
Yeah.
I get.
Yeah.
They thought they were getting
that brooch on your dress. I'll take it.
Yeah. $400,000.
And the other train's just like, true, next to us.
Waving.
Yeah.
Y'all okay in there? A newspaper called it one of the smallest in the history of train robbery. Elmer. Bless his heart. So Elmer took his whiskey and headed to a ranch where he stayed up drinking with some of the ranch hands before falling asleep in a hayloft. 3 sheriffs tracked him to that hayloft on October 7th, 1911. There was a $2,000 reward for his capture.
That's more than he got.
I was going to say, he could have turned himself in and made more money.
Exactly.
Than he did in his entire armed robber career.
Poor bud.
So the 3 sheriffs surrounded the hayshed. They wait for the sun to come up. And here's how it went down according to one of the sheriffs. His name is Bob Fenton. And in the October 8th, 1911 edition of the Daily Examiner,
Amazing.
This is what he said. It began just about 7 o'clock. We were standing around waiting for him to come out when the first shot was fired at me.
Oh.
It missed me. And then he turned his attention to my brother, Stringer Fenton.
Oh, man.
He shot 3 times at Stringer. And when my brother got under cover, he turned his attention to Dick Wallace. So he kept shooting at all of us for about an hour, and we fired back every time we could.
Oh, my gosh.
Elmer was killed by a single gunshot wound to the chest, which he sustained while lying down. The 3 sheriffs weren't sure which of their bullets killed him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now this sounds like I'm at the end.
Right.
But I'm not.
R.I.P. Elmer. Oh, okay.
I wish I was, honestly, because I get that he's like not the best guy.
Right.
But it's also like, man, really?
He struggled.
Because, my darlings, there is more to Elmer's story. It does not end.
It doesn't
with his death.
Okay.
Elmer's body is taken to an undertaker.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Joseph L. Johnson.
Joe Johnson.
Nobody came to claim Elmer's body.
Oh.
So Mr. Johnson went ahead and embalmed the body with arsenic-based preservative. That was kind of common back then. That's like what you wanted to do. It would preserve the body for a long period of time. And I think the point was, let's preserve the body as long as we can in case someone shows up to find him. It was also common back then to go ahead and preserve the bodies and then put them on display to sort of show off what you can do as an undertaker.
Exactly.
It's like advertising. So Johnson shaved Elmer, put a suit on him, and stored him in the back of the funeral home. Now, since no one ever came to claim the body, there was no one to pay for the work that Joseph had done to get the body ready.
Right.
And he refused to bury or release the body until he got paid.
Oh.
So there he is, and he has this well-preserved, well-dressed body, and he needs some money. So he did the only thing he could do, Kara. He pulled Elmer's body out of storage, took the suit off of him, put him in street clothes, placed a rifle in his hands, stood Elmer in the corner of the funeral home, and he called Elmer the bandit who wouldn't give up.
Oh.
And he charged visitors a nickel to come and see him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's also known as the mystery man of many aliases, the Oklahoma Outlaw, and the embalmed bandit. When people came to view him, Kara,
this is fun.
They had to pay that fee.
Right.
Guess how they paid it? They stuck it in his mouth.
Oh.
Like a
Like
really
he
weird
was a
arcade game.
machine.
Uh-huh.
Huh.
Yeah, can you imagine walking up to a dead body and
Sliding the jaw down.
with your fingers pushing
a quarter into his mouth. Do you take the tongue out when they're
no, God, Kara.
How much room is there to get a quarter down or a nickel? What did nickels look like back then?
Well, and then at the end of the day, did the Undertaker then go in and just like clear out all the nickels?
Like set him upside down and shake him? What did he do?
Then on October 6th, 1916, almost exactly 5 years after Elmer died, two men show up at the funeral home claiming to be Elmer's brothers.
Oh.
So first off, let's acknowledge it's just been on display for 5 years, basically.
Just 5.
A little less than 5.
Just 5.
One
That's
of them
a lot of nickels.
had already talked. So one of those brothers had already talked to the sheriff and a local attorney and got permission to take Elmer's body and ship it to San Francisco for a proper burial.
Oh, okay.
Elmer did not have any brothers. These two men were Charles and James Patterson. And I'm sure you recognize James Patterson as the best-selling author of several thrillers. It's not the same.
No, not the same. Not the same. Okay.
These two brothers were the owners
for the nickels
of a traveling carnival known as the Great Patterson Carnival Show.
Stop it.
They did not ship the body to San Francisco, and instead, it became the new feature in their carnival known as the Outlaw Who Would Never Be Captured Alive. And that's where Elmer stayed until 1922, when a man named Louis Sonny bought the Patterson Carnival. Elmer then became part of Sonny's traveling museum of crime, which featured wax figures of famous outlaws
but
like
he's not wax.
Jesse James and Bill Doolin. Correct.
He's not wax.
He is not wax.
He's full of arsenic.
You can Google him, you guys, and
you can Google something.
It's really incredible what he looked like.
Wow.
In 1933, Sonny let director Dwayne Esper use Elmer's corpse to promote his film, Narcotic, with an exclamation point at the end. The body was placed in the lobby of theaters as a, quote, dead dope fiend.
Stop it.
The director told everyone, yeah, this guy, it's this body here. This is a guy who wanted drugs so bad, he robbed a drugstore to support his habit, and the police surrounded him, and he killed himself.
He had a gun wound to his abdomen.
This is all fake, obviously.
Right.
But, of course, they used it. That was the story. That was the marketing in 1933. So at that point, Elmer has been dead for 22 years.
Yeah.
The body had become mummified, causing the skin to become hard and shriveled. Esper, the director, was like, yeah, see how the skin is deteriorating? That's proof that he was a drug addict. Okay.
No, but
all right.
That disease body's old.
Louis Sonny died in 1949, and Elmer's body went into storage in Los Angeles. In 1964, 53 years after he had died in a shootout with the police, Elmer wound up with another filmmaker, David F. Freeman, and actually appeared briefly in the 1967 film She Freak.
Oh.
She's a saver. In 1968, Dan Sonny, who is Louis Sonny's son.
So many Sonnies.
There's so many. Dan inherited all of his dad's things. Okay. So Dan sold Elmer's body along with other wax figures for $10,000 to the owner of the Hollywood Wax Museum.
Okay.
That guy gave the body to two men who took Elmer to an exhibit at Mount Rushmore.
What?
I don't know. And while it was there was a big windstorm.
Oh my God.
That caused some damage to the body. The tips of the ears, fingers, and toes were all blown off. The men returned Elmer's body, saying it looked too gruesome and not lifelike enough.
It's been dead for a bit, guys.
I'm not sure at this point who knew this was an actual body and who thought it was just a wax figure.
Right.
So next, Elmer was sold to a man named Ed Lyrish, who had some ownership of a place called The Pike, which was an amusement zone in Long Beach, California. In 1976, Elmer's corpse was hanging there at the Pike in the Laugh in the Dark Funhouse exhibition. So, I mean, we've heard this urban legend, right? Like there's this haunted house and there's an actual dead body in there. That's actually what this was.
Oh,
it's a real thing. He was an actual dead body. It's 1976. He's been dead since, 1912 or something. So back in the 70s, there was this TV show called The $6 Million Man. Have you heard of it?
No.
It was a really popular TV show. It was a science fiction action show about a former astronaut played by Lee Majors. It was really popular. It ran from 1973 to 1978. On December 8th, 1976, they are filming some scenes for that show inside the funhouse at the Pike.
Oh my God.
A prop man moves what he thinks is a wax mannequin, and the mannequin's arm breaks off. And they're like, we better fix that. And then when they look at it, they're like, there's a bone and some muscle tissue. Police and firefighters came, and apparently they called the paramedics and reported a severe case
Oh my God.
of dehydration.
This guy's been dead forever.
Yeah, it's just the kind of dark humor I enjoy in a person.
Yeah.
They're like, listen, we got a really dehydrated guy here.
Yeah.
And when the paramedics showed up, they all got a big laugh out of it. But
That's
Elmer was
amazing.
taken to the LA coroner's office where an autopsy was performed the following day. And that's when they figured out this is the body of a male who had died of a gunshot wound to his chest, and his body was completely petrified, covered in layers of wax and paint.
Oh my God.
By this point, Elmer's body had been through a lot. Aside from that windstorm that
fingers,
took off
nose,
certain
ears,
parts,
and toes.
his body had been drilled into, glued, mechanized to twitch. I'm assuming because the funhouse thing,
right?
And painted neon orange.
Why?
I don't know. Some hair was still visible on the side and back of his head.
Oh God.
The doctor who did this autopsy could also see incisions from Elmer's original autopsy and embalming, and he discovered the presence of arsenic, which kind of gave them an idea of how long ago the body had been embalmed. Arsenic had been part of embalming fluid up until the late 1920s.
Oh my God.
Along with that, they found the bullet jacket from the bullet that had killed him still inside his body.
What?
Guess what else they found?
I don't know.
Inside his mouth, when they took out his jaw for dental analysis, they found a 1924 penny, a ticket stub.
Money?
Yes. A ticket stub to the Pike exhibit, and a ticket stub to Louis Sonny's Museum of Crime. So that ticket stub, that last one, led them to Dan Sonny, and he was like, oh yeah, that's Elmer McCurdy. So Dan knew.
Oh my gosh.
When he sold it to the Wax Museum, he knew.
Yeah.
There must have been records because he's like, yeah, that's Elmer McCurdy. Yeah. Forensic anthropologist Dr. Clyde Snow took radiographic images of the body's skull and compared them to a photo of Elmer taken at the time of his death and confirmed that it was indeed Elmer.
My gosh. That's wild.
When this story got out, several funeral homes offered to bury Elmer's body free of charge, which I thought was really, The body was eventually given to a man named Fred Olds, who represented the Oklahoma Westerners Indian Territory Posse. I looked it up. It's an organization that promotes the study and preservation of the history of the American West through programs, field trips, and speakers.
Yeah.
So, on April 22nd, 1977, nearly 66 years after he had been killed,
my gosh,
Elmer McCurdy was buried in the Boot Hill section of the Summit View Cemetery in Guthrie, Oklahoma.
I made it back to Oklahoma.
Yes, right next to actual Wild West outlaw Bill Doolin.
Oh,
300 people attended the graveside service.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And he didn't have any family.
No.
And then he had that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. It's like, he's not a good guy, right?
No,
but you also kind of root for him.
Like, he's just, like, cheesy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like,
he didn't kill anybody.
No.
But, I mean, he did try. Like, he did shoot at those police officers.
Yeah.
But it's just like, oh, man.
Self-defense.
66 years after he'd been killed. Wow. Just the preservation of the body alone. Like, that Undertaker, whoa.
What's his name needed that when he was trying to preserve his lover.
Yes. Carl Tanzler.
Yes. Yeah. Tanzler.
You know, I saw this headline that was like, body found on the $6 million man show set. And I had no idea. Again, what a story. And then it led to this whole other story that I'm getting ready to record for the Patreon. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, we love you all.
We'll be back Friday with another episode.
Yep.
We love you
so much.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.